Hi guys, Sheena here. Hope your October is going really well. I would like to talk today about sabotage and success because I think a lot of what I talk about is empowerment and being successful on our path. And to start, I'd like to define success because I think success naturally is this thing that we think has to do with money. And I absolutely don't believe that. For me, I do think money is a part of it because it's the holistic sort of approach, and money offers security and a foundation for us. But I don't think if money doesn't equal success to you, that doesn't mean you can't be successful. Success is about what we feel we can contribute to the world foundationally in terms of our purpose or in terms of our use, in terms of our values. And in fact, I think values is probably the closest thing for me that I resonate with in terms of success because as I grow, and that probably wasn't always that way, I realize that it's the person that I want to be that makes me successful. And for me, just to give you a little insight into that, a holistic approach to my wellness, to my being, to my authenticity, to my purpose, that all comes into me being like this healthy, strong, potentiated human. And then I am able to sort of receive success through those habits and beliefs and ways of being ultimately. That would probably be the ultimate sort of ideal is that I'm being who I believe I'm supposed to be. I'm walking in my footsteps and I'm empowered by my authenticity and my connection to the world. And then in turn, the world is giving back to me. So if you can roll with me on that idea of success, I think this is what I'm talking about. All the other stuff are like components to success, right? And the other portion of this talk is about sabotage because I was doing a reflection in one of my classes today, and so much in my life there was this sort of saboteur archetype that was really just stunting my growth, setting me back, making me feel not worthy, limiting my opportunities, limiting my idea of myself or my capacity to take on more, to do more. And I do. I do think it's a part of all of us, and it's just that sort of person inside of us, or that message, or that belief, or that ideal, or that value system, or that person that once told us we weren't good enough, sort of thing that's saying that we don't want to take on more. And I bring up Teal Swan because I think that was the first time I ever heard anybody talk about the saboteur in a light where I like resonated immediately with it. And it was when she did a video on YouTube about the saboteur only just wanting your comfort, like you to be comfortable. And I think that is so true, and we tend to look at, the dark or the negative or the low vibrational frequencies or whatever, the demons, however we want to look at it inside of ourselves as these, like hexy sort of like, no, get these away from me sort of things. But we're not really supposed to look at them that way because we can't embrace them. No different than a child acting out or misbehaving. Like, how do you treat that child to get them on your side, to get them sort of working in that more light space? And I think that's what you have to do with all the pieces. And another term that Teal Swan introduced to me was like fragmentation. And we've got all these fragmented parts of ourselves, and when we don't have awareness of the whole, those fragmented parts from us, they take our energy and they become more powerful. And if we don't have awareness of that stuff, it could look like weird behaviors or sabotaging patterns or things that take us in directions that we didn't want to go. And I'm always trying to keep it, as open as possible. And, these talks are for everybody. Okay. This is my psychological sort of take on it through a lot of spiritual practice, through a lot of different tools, through life coaching and hypnotherapy, and through, it just yoga and my version of things. But at the same time, when we're trying to change something in our lives, and that could be anything. It could be like, I am not that loyal of a person, I'd like to be more loyal. Or I would like to invite more money into my life, or it could be something else like a healthier body or a healthier mind or healthier relationships or more positivity, like whatever it is. It takes looking at ourselves and this awareness to really transcend the stuff that's stopping us. So when I'm talking to you guys out there, that's what I'm talking about, right? I don't have to be right or wrong in these talks. That's not what I'm doing here. What I'm doing is I'm sharing tools to engage with the parts of ourselves that we aren't aware of yet, so that we can become whole and move on whatever path we want to be on. And that could be whatever that looks like for you, right? That could be anything. And you could take that in any direction. And my intention is always that we take it in the intention of light, and we take it in the intention of actuation, potentiation, of being happy and joyful and compassionate, and those sort of higher emotional frequencies that vibrate to our friends and families and communities and neighboring states and neighboring countries and the overall world, and then the universe. Because I do believe that's my higher vision, is that we vibrate on a higher frequency as a whole. So these tools, this tool to success, this tool for the saboteur, and ultimately anything I ever talk about, it's riding on that sort of scope of reality, that sort of conscious level of work, if that makes sense. So when it comes to success, you got to ask yourself some questions. So I'm going to offer some tools. I'm trying to get a little bit better about not just sharing information about me and about these tools, but like, how do we work this stuff? So you got to do the work. And I am just with you sometimes, or with anybody that doesn't want to do the work. Like, I go to school for healing arts, and sometimes they ask me these questions and I'm like running the other way. Like, I got to go to the gym, and I've got friends to see, and I've got this other stuff to do. And I'm like, I'll just put that on the back burner, and I'll look at that later. But like, these questions really open me up. And when you really sit down with them, and it takes a question, and all of a sudden I have this epiphany about myself. And then that's just step one. You've got to apply it, right? Like, how do I work it? So the next question is, how do I work this in my life? What do I need to do? And then, those tools about patterning and behavior changes, and those, they come into play, because you can't just let it sit there. You've got to integrate it. And until you see the shift in your life, it's not integrated. So for this success and saboteur sort of talk today, I'll ask you a question. What fears have the most authority over you? And if you have the time, I'd say pause the video and write it down. Write down 3. Like, what fears have the most authority over you? And I'll share one of mine so you kind of have an idea how this works. One of mine is that I will fail in my life and disappoint myself and others. I think this fear comes up from 2 places. I have confirmed this belief many times in my life by failing or setting myself back. But with the tools of my life and the work I have done, I see that we can remove this belief and reframe it. So that gives me perspective when it shows up. The other space of fear associated with this is that I need validation for who I am, which is something that I must let go of all the time now. I see how when I have the confidence of connection to source and true authentic self, I don't need that validation. However, that takes me being consistent in my practice and honoring my purposes. So, and that, that's mine. Whatever, it could be it could be anything, right? Limiting belief, like I am not worthy. And then where does that stem from? And a little self-reflection on how that's come to be. And then the next step is like, how do I work out of that in my life? So for myself in this specific fear, I work with mantras in my mind when that sort of fear comes up, and I'm looking. So for now, I notice that I'm looking for validation of others. One thing that comes up a lot with me is like, I'm doing a lot, but it's like under the surface, and I'm not in my version of success yet, because I'm not fully walking in my power where I'm doing everything I want to do every day and the world is giving back to me. And that's sort of my vision of success. And I know maybe I'll never fully get there, but I know that it's going to be more than where I'm at right now. And and just to clarify what that looks like is like helping other people, and also not having to work a job that I don't feel engaged with to pay my bills. Right? Being able to travel and do the things I want to do and help others and share myself and my vision with the world. I mean, that's success to me. And, I do that every day more and more. And the more I do it, the more it invites that into my life. So having that awareness. A mental thought that I could stop is that, like, I'm not living it, right? I could tell myself I'm not really living this life right now, and I want to live it tomorrow, and that's limiting in itself, right? Like, so I've got to figure out, well, how can I live in it today, and how do I do that more? So today I'm doing a video, so there's an action, right, associated with that. And now in this moment in time, I've expanded myself. I could have very well not done this video and not put the energy into this cup and filled this, and I do. So, or I did. I don't all the time. But so that's how that works, right? So we got to do those reflections. I'll ask you another question, and once again, you could pause the video, you could write down, you could just let it sit in you, develop it for later. um, is how conscious am I when I'm sabotaging myself? Do I recognize those patterns in myself? Have I seen myself sabotage in the past? And I want to say something about this too, because when I was kind of doing the reflection for myself, I thought, well, I have a lot of friends, and I have said it many times to people around me that we all sort of believe that everything is happening in the moment that it's happening for us. And I think that's true. But there is something to be said about postponing our healing and postponing our success and postponing the authenticity that we want to portray or that we want to be, that we want to live, I guess would be the right word there. And I think that, you know, there's no pressure to perform. If we make a mistake or that sabotage or that saboteur comes in, it's not about beating ourselves up about it. It's not about that. It's about learning from our lessons. It's about looking back and saying, okay, I can see where I tripped up a little bit there. I could see where that set me back. And it's in the setbacks that we learn as well. And we engage with other things. And we could say, well, maybe I wouldn't have done this if I didn't do this. We could do that all day long. But ultimately, when you're working on shifting out or shifting into these new frequencies, you got to be aware. And awareness is self-care, because you get to be aware in all the moments, like how am I treating myself right now? How is this filling this cup? Am I aware that right now I'm filling this cup and it's probably going to take a little bit from that cup, which is fine. Totally fine. But if you're aware of it, that gives you a lot more insight on if you want to be doing it, or if you're doing it out of an unconscious pattern, or if you're doing it because you're avoiding something. So I think when I answered this question for myself, how conscious am I that I'm sabotaging myself? For me, it's a lot about being calm, understanding the process of life, being aware, and making my choices, and owning up to my decisions. So in my life, I've absolutely let things like pass me by. And I don't have any regrets about any of those things. But I tell people all the time that we can elongate our healing, which truly doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, right? Because of what we were talking about. But in the scope of this life, we might notice that when we engage with the healing process more actively, when we are aware versus ignoring the messages in our life, there's a magic in that as well. And that links up to a lot of different concepts that we're not going to address today. But discernment being one of those concepts, and just maturity, right? Like, we know what we can get ourselves into. We need to know our limits, and we need to know our boundaries, and that will help us along the way, and it will help us recognize when we're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I probably can like go to bed tonight, or do this, or fill this cup, or maybe I do need to get up and move my body to make me feel more healthy, because that's going to help my energy for the evening, or whatever it is. So yeah, now I'm going to let that sit with you, right? Yeah, check on yourself, reflect on your stuff, be easy with yourself. That's number one. Like, uh, this is not this pressure. This is not pressure to perform. This is not having an addiction to being a productive person. This is not being the best you there is. This is working to shift out of patterns that shift us back or don't allow us to shine our light at the capacity at which the world shines back at us for what we most need, if that makes sense. So, yeah, that's what I have for you today. Please have a beautiful day. Be easy with yourself, be honest, be loving, and I'll see you next time.